All right, so on this Friday, January 10th, Judge Merchan in New York has said he will go forward in the sentencing of President Trump. This is the Alvin Bragg case where President Trump was found guilty of those 34 felonies mixed in somehow with a federal election law. It was all a mess. And he, even the DA there said, well, maybe we just say, we can't move forward, or this is where we stopped. But he's come up with a different idea, which is that we're going to find that we're going to sentence him, but the sentencing will not have any, there won't be any kind of actual sentence that comes with it, other than the fact that you will, for the rest of your life, be a convicted felon. And that is, I think, exactly what the left wants here. Is they want to be able to say this is the first president in history who is entering the Oval Office as a convicted felon. So President Trump has announced he's going to take action before Friday to try and prevent this sentencing from Judge Merchan. And then ultimately, I think he's going to continue to fight this. I mean, this was a weak case to begin with. I think that everyone realized this case on appeal probably had a lot of trouble ultimately because of the way they tried to create the hush money payments into election law. They're not really allowed to enforce federal election law. That's not their job as local DAs. But Merchan came up with his way to where he can, quote, sentence President Trump without actually sentencing him to anything. So again, proving our point that all of this is not about actually punishing anyone. It's about tarring and feathering people. And it's about making you look like you are a felon. It's giving the ability for the other side, whenever they feel like throwing it out there, that you're a convicted felon and that we don't really trust you. But the American people, of course, knew all of this, and he won an overwhelming election. So I think this is gamesmanship, which is what's so wrong with our legal system in this country. The fact that he's going to do this sentencing on these 34 counts, but don't worry, it's not going to come with any conditions. It's not going to be any kind of actual sentencing whatsoever. No jail time, but nothing. It's going to be unconditional release.
It's always a show, and it's always backfires. It always becomes something that's not. I don't know why they keep continuing on this. I did think about this. Was President Trump not allowed to vote in this election as a convicted felon?
Because the sentencing had not come down, he was not a convicted felon. Also, he's a resident of Florida. Florida has a lot of rules as far as if you're a felon in a different state versus Florida. It was convoluted. He was able to vote in this election. But back to Jordan's point as well, Judge Merchan set the sentencing for Friday, 10 days before the inauguration of President Trump.
And certification's about to happen
in the next
few hours.
Right. This is where the fight was going on between Alvin Bragg trying to say, hey, do the Alabama rule, which we don't do here in New York, which is where you declare him dead and still enter the judgment. And President Trump wanted the whole case thrown out. This is what Judge Merchan said in his order, saying that we will have sentencing on Friday. In balancing the aforementioned considerations, meaning like the presidential immunity and things of that nature, in conjunction with the underlying concerns of presidential immunity doctrine, a sentence of an unconditional discharge appears to be the most viable solution to ensure finality and allow the defendant to pursue his appellate options. So he's trying to look like he's a fair judge, saying, I'm not going to fine him. The unconditional discharge would just be like, you're a convicted felon, no other penalties or punishments, go along your way, and you can appeal this then. He's trying to make it look like he's being fair to the president by saying, now he can go appeal this. Now he can go get it overturned. But in reality, as you mentioned, Jordan, it's just trying to put that stain of convicted felon on the incoming president of the United States before he is sworn in on January 20th. And President Trump also has filed this morning saying, hey, scrap that on Friday because we've appealed your immunity ruling already at the appeals court. So you should be putting all these proceedings on pause. The person who would make this decision based off that filing by President Trump would be Judge Merchan. The fact he already decided to schedule this on Friday, I don't think you're going to change his mind at that point. But the president's legal team is still fighting these issues very actively.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a phone call. Let's go to Bill, who's calling in Wyoming. You're on the air.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. If I was emailing anybody, I think I would be putting a large LOL on this because I think that they just created a wonderful statue and have applied gold leafing to the top of it.
Well, I think, listen, I mean, ultimately here, when you're talking about the situation with President Trump is, listen, they tried to use lawfare to take down President Trump. It didn't work. Other people, I'm not so sure, could have withstood this kind of barrage legally. And I say it for two reasons. One, he's particularly tough and tested. He's already been president of the United States. He's built up a huge support base. Number two, you saw kind of like the parity between him and Joe Biden, whose family was also under these criminal investigations. And let me tell you something, those criminal investigations made a lot more sense to the American people about why they were being looked at, because it was, you know, the Hunter Biden stuff. And it just seemed it was easier to connect in your head than a unknown election law federally that was somehow tied to a business records law in New York that somehow together took a misdemeanor to a felony. That's a much tougher leap for people to take. And the second part is this. If you're on the right, we've been preaching this idea of the court systems being weaponized and used, and we call it lawfare. And we've really made the example of President Trump and some of those who surrounded him as kind of like the first time true lawfare came to the United States of America. Not just through political fights like impeachment, but actual state court systems and federal court systems. And we were able to see President Trump really wear these as part of a badge of honor. Is that if they're going to go after me here, 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 and here, it's because they're so scared of what I can do politically. They're so scared of me coming back into office, because if I can do this, even with all of these stains and distractions, it shows that we'll be able to get a lot of my policies in place. And that's what they're truly afraid of on the left, is that President Trump's policies are more important to the American people than personality. And that it wasn't an election based off, oh, who do you think's nicer and a person that's, you know, a nicer person to be around. That's not how people want to elect the president of the United States. They want to elect who's tougher, who's been through the ringer the most, and comes out and can still run our country at a time when we've got a couple of wars going on, yep, threats of other conflicts. I think that you put all of that together and you realize, listen, are they ever going to stop coming for President Trump? I don't think so. I think he's got a couple more years of this probably in his own presidency. They might stop after that, because you start then getting towards the next Republican president of the United States. It's not going to be him. But in these first 2 years, this is still going to be a time where we have to be on guard and ready to fight every step of the way, because we have not put in place any of the cabinet members yet.
That's right. And you can sign a petition to get involved right now. All you need to do is go to aclj.org/sign. Help stop political prosecution. Be a part of it right now. aclj.org/sign.